The security cameras in my mom's antique shop flickered on my screen at exactly 11:42 p.m. Through the blurry night vision, I saw my stepfather Robert sneak in through the back door. He was carrying something that looked a lot like a gas canister. Right on time, I muttered, already dialing Detective Martinez. "He's inside," she said in a quiet voice. "Our officers are ready, but we need to wait until he actually tries something. We need clear proof." I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. For 3 months, we had been gathering evidence that Robert was trying to destroy my mom's business. Tonight was the final step in his plan. My name is Kate Chen, and at 33 years old, I was watching my stepfather attempt to burn down the antique shop my mother had spent 20 years building. But what he didn't know was that we had been recording everything, every single move he made. On the security feed, I watched him walk carelessly through the shop, knocking over expensive antiques as he poured the accelerant. My mom's precious Tiffany lamp crashed to the floor. I winced even though I knew we had replaced it with a fake. The real one, along with other valuable pieces, was safely stored away. "How's your mom holding up?" Detective Martinez asked, still on the line. "She's finally asleep," I replied. "I gave her the mild sedatives the doctor prescribed. She thinks she's staying at my place because of electrical problems at the shop." The truth was, my mom was safe and far away from Robert's plans. The so-called electrical problems were just one of his many tricks to make it look like the shop was doomed to fail. My phone buzzed with a message from Marcus, my lawyer. "The insurance investigator is ready. Everything is documented." I thought back to 6 months ago when I first noticed things going wrong. Chen Family Antiques had been successful for years. Then Robert married my mom, and suddenly, problems started piling up. At first, it was small things, mixed up records, missing supplies, misplaced items. Then it got worse. Fake negative reviews appeared online. Loyal customers mysteriously canceled their orders. Rumors spread that the shop was selling counterfeits. My mom was heartbroken, but Robert always acted supportive. He convinced her to add him to the business insurance policy. He suggested increasing the coverage. He kept saying that some businesses were worth more closed than open. But he made one big mistake. He never bothered to check who actually owned the building. The house and the shop, Chen Family Antiques, had been in my father's family for generations. When he passed away 15 years ago, he left the property to me, not my mother. I never told anyone. Instead, I let the building be managed through an LLC, so even my mom thought she was renting from the original family trust. It had always seemed easier that way, until Robert came into our lives. On my phone screen, I saw Robert finishing his preparations. He checked his phone, probably making sure my mom was really at my place. Then he pulled out a lighter. "He's about to do it," I told Detective Martinez. "Wait for it," she said tensely. "We need to be sure." Robert flicked the lighter. A small flame appeared on the screen. He bent down, moving it toward the trail of accelerant. "Now." Detective Martinez barked into her radio. The shop's high-powered security lights flashed on, flooding the place with brightness. Outside, I saw police officers rushing in from all directions. Robert froze, still holding the lighter, as Detective Martinez and her team burst through the door. "SFPD. Hands where we can see them." I watched as Robert dropped the lighter, his face full of shock. He never expected to be caught. That was always his biggest weakness. He underestimated everyone. "Miss Chen." An officer spoke into his radio. "We got him. You can come in now." I drove quickly to the shop. By the time I arrived, Robert was already sitting in the back of a police car, looking stunned. Crime scene techs were taking pictures of everything: the gas canister, the lighter, the trail of accelerant. "Want to talk to him?" Detective Martinez asked. I thought about it for a second, then nodded. She opened the car door. "Kate?" Robert's voice was uncertain. "What are you doing here?" I stared at him. There was a problem with the shop. I was just checking on it. "With gasoline and a lighter?" I asked quietly. "That's an interesting way to check on things." Robert's face hardened. "You don't understand. The shop is dying. Your mother can't see it, but sometimes a business needs to end. The insurance would have set her up for life." I shook my head. "The shop isn't dying, Robert. You've been killing it. We have proof, everything. The sabotage orders, the fake reviews, the manipulated inventory. Every single thing you did to destroy my mother's business." He forced a laugh, but I saw the fear creeping into his eyes. "That's ridiculous. You can't prove any of that." "Actually, we can." I smiled slightly as I delivered the final blow. "Remember those new security cameras Mom had installed last month? I put them in. They recorded everything, including you talking about how accidents happen and how sometimes a fire is a blessing." His face went pale. "The cameras, that was you." "The cameras, the backup inventory records, the real antiques moved into safe storage. All me. Did you really think I'd just stand by and watch you destroy everything my mother built?" His mask finally slipped. His voice turned venomous. "Your mother is a fool. She can't see that her shop is obsolete. I was trying to help her." I leaned in. "By committing insurance fraud? By planning to burn down a building full of irreplaceable antiques?" I paused, letting my words sink in before delivering the final twist. "A building, by the way, that I own." Robert froze. "What? Oh, did you know? The building has been in my family for generations. That LLC you think owns it, that's me. So you weren't just committing insurance fraud. You were trying to burn down my property." His mouth opened, then shut. For once, Robert had nothing to say. The next morning, I sat beside Mom in Detective Martinez's office, holding her hand as we watched the security footage. Each betrayal played out in crisp digital clarity. Robert sabotaging inventory, planting fake antiques, making threatening phone calls to suppliers. Mom's hands trembled. "How could I have been so blind?" she whispered, tears falling freely. "I actually believed the business was failing." "He was very careful," Detective Martinez said gently. "These types of predators usually are. They gain trust, then use it against their victims." I thought about how methodically Robert had worked to isolate Mom from her friends and business partners. How he slowly convinced her that her judgment couldn't be trusted, that she needed him. The door opened and Marcus, the insurance investigator, walked in with a thick folder. "The insurance company is very interested in Robert's policy changes," he said, "particularly the rider he added for smoke and fire damage last month." Mom took a shaky breath and signed the statement Detective Martinez had prepared. Page after page, it detailed Robert's elaborate scheme, his attempt to destroy the shop and collect the payout. "What happens now?" she asked quietly. I squeezed her hand. "Now, we rebuild. But first, there's something I need to tell you about the building." It took time to explain everything, how Dad had left the property to me, how I had managed it quietly through the LLC, how I had been watching over the business all along. Mom listened silently, fresh tears falling. "Your father would be so proud," she finally said. "He always said you had his head for business. I should have seen what Robert was doing." I shook my head. Don't blame yourself. Just help me bring the shop back to what it should be." Over the next few weeks, we worked tirelessly to restore Chen family antiques to its former glory. The real inventory came back from storage, piece by piece. Loyal customers returned as we reached out to explain what had happened. Even some of the suppliers Robert had scared away came back, offering their support. Meanwhile, Robert was facing serious charges. The evidence against him was overwhelming. Not just attempted arson and insurance fraud, but harassment, extortion, and financial crimes we were still uncovering. One afternoon, Detective Martinez called me. "He's trying to make a deal," she said. I smiled. "Let him try." One afternoon, Detective Martinez told me that Robert was trying to make a deal. He claimed he could share information about other insurance scams he had been part of. I wasn't surprised. Our research showed that Robert had a history of marrying successful businesswomen and then setting up accidents to collect insurance money. He had just never been caught. Until now. A month after his arrest, Mom and I stood in our newly restored shop. The Tiffany lamp was back in its place, along with all the antiques Robert had tried to ruin. "I've been thinking," Mom said as she adjusted a Victorian vase. "Maybe it's time for some real changes, not the ones Robert tried to force." "What kind of changes?" I asked. She smiled. "You have your father's business sense and my love for antiques. Maybe it's time for you to take a bigger role in the shop." I grinned, already thinking about my ideas. Modernizing the inventory, expanding the business, maybe even opening a second location. "I'd love that," I said. "Partners?" she asked. "Partners," I agreed. Just then, the bell above the door chimed. It was Sarah, one of our most loyal customers before Robert scared her away with his lies. "The shop looks amazing," she said, looking around. "I heard what happened. I can't believe he tried to destroy all of this." "But he didn't succeed," Mom said firmly. "Sometimes the things meant to break us just make us stronger." 6 months later, Chen Family Antiques was thriving. After the scandal, our reputation for honesty and expertise had only grown stronger. People admired how we had protected not just the business but the history and memories behind every piece. Robert ended up pleading guilty to several charges. His confession helped uncover 3 other insurance scams he'd pulled on his previous wives. Those women even reached out to thank us for stopping him. Mom was healing too. She started dating again. But this time she was more careful. She had learned an important lesson. Trust must be earned, not given freely. One evening, as we closed the shop, Mom stopped by the Tiffany lamp, the one Robert had tried to destroy. "You know what's funny?" she said, running her fingers over the glass. "He thought he was smart, trying to burn everything down for the insurance money. But the real value was never in the policy." I smiled. "It was in the history, the stories, the people. And most importantly," she added, looking at me, "the family protecting it all." I hugged her, feeling a deep sense of peace. "Dad would be proud of us," I said. "He would," she agreed. "He always said our strength was in knowing our true worth." Robert never understood that. The shop bell rang again, a last-minute customer. As Mom walked over to help them, I watched her move confidently through the space she had built with love and dedication. Robert had tried to destroy everything, thinking only about money, but he had never understood that some things are worth more than that. Family, legacy, trust. He had tried to burn us down. Instead, he only made us stronger. And somewhere in his prison cell, he was learning a hard lesson. Some legacies can't be erased. Some bonds are fireproof.